Oh, right, we're supposed to wave.
This is where we
do the
speak.
Tony.
Yes.
Okay, let me just, okay. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 16th regular meeting and workshop of the Hyde Park Town Board. Please join me while we pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so may I have a motion? Is there a lot of feedback, or is it?
No, they said it's just kind of loud in here, but
okay. All right.
they said the time it goes through all the wires and into everybody's home, it's not
okay.
that loud.
Okay. It just seems loud. Okay, so we have a number of items on our workshop. The first is the Clean Energy Communities Program, and we have a representative of NYSERDA to discuss this with us, and I think it's a really cool and great program, and I hope you can join us right here, Europa. So right here, that way you can sit and we can discuss it. And I also have a member of the audience who really encouraged us to explore this, and so he made sure to leave work early so he could attend. So thank you, Sean.
Well, thank you very much for having me tonight. This is great. I hear a little feedback, but so basically, I'm a Clean Energy Communities Coordinator. Like Supervisor Rohr said, I work at the Hudson Valley Regional Council down in Newburgh, and so we're the subcontractor for NYSERDA for this program. So basically, the program launched about a year ago in August of 2016, and so we're a little over a year into it. You think that's it? Or is it my wonderful loud voice? So we've seen great success in the program locally, and hopefully by the time I'm done talking this brief presentation, you'll have a sense of that. So the way the program works basically is that NYSERDA has identified a list of 10 high-impact actions, and they basically decided that these are the most beneficial to communities that are interested in reducing your energy usage, saving money, of course, along the way, and reducing your greenhouse gas emissions. So those 10 high-impact actions are, like I said, what I can work with you on, and to become a designated clean energy community by New York State, you complete 4 out of those 10. Now, for a town Hyde Park size, not all 10 of those are available to you. So as I'm going through them, you'll see on that sheet I gave you, the list of 10 is on the left there, so you can kind of tick them off. And I usually send a very detailed, lengthy follow-up email with all sorts of attachments for you, depending on what you express interest in today. And of course,
just so you know, I don't know if you are aware, but our Conservation Advisory Council led us through doing the SOLARIZE program last year.
That's great.
And the ENERGIZE program right now. So we are working on those too.
Yes, and I was aware of the success of the SOLARIZE campaign, which is great. And the ENERGIZE New York Residential, I believe that's a pilot program, right? Only 3 communities in the county. So that's very exciting, and I'd be interested to hear how it's going for you as well. Yeah. So that's great. No, I understand the town has been proactive with some of these actions already. So if it works for everyone, I'll just kind of very briefly give you, go through the ones that are available to the town, and then we can discuss as we go along.
Sure, perfect.
Right,
Thank you.
So the first action you'll see on the left there is benchmarking. This is a very attainable action, especially for a community your size. I mean, we have Westchester County working on it, so just to give you an example of how attainable it is. Basically, it's measuring and reporting the energy use of your municipal buildings. So you're using a free online platform. It's called the EPA Portfolio Manager tool. And now we can work with your staff if you're interested in doing this. Basically, you gather up all of your billing data for all of your larger municipal buildings, those that are over 1,000 square feet. And we gather a year's worth of billing data, your electric, your gas, your oil, put it in a system, and then basically, I can basically do that, and then I just work to train your designated staff person to input it moving forward. And the other thing to count as a high impact action is to actually pass a resolution stipulating that you'll publish that online once a year. So a lot of communities, like you were saying, Red Hook, has been very proactive in this program, and you'll find Red Hook and Marbletown and Rosendale and New Paltz on the other side of the river. Similar sized communities have pursued this action. So it's a great way to see what buildings are, using a lot of energy, a great way to have it all in one place. A lot of communities already have it in a spreadsheet. So now we're just taking it and putting it in this portfolio manager so you can do a more in-depth analysis of your energy usage. And I had one community, it kind of worked as a billing audit because they had a $300-something a month bill that they didn't know where it couldn't be attributed to anything. So
Wow.
yeah, so it can work for that as well. So
And is the purpose partially because New York State would like to gather the data and be able to make recommendations to municipalities on their usage?
that's interesting. I haven't heard it coming from that direction. I think it's more that it's looking inward. It's sort of each community analyzing their own buildings, comparing it to, you can use the tool to compare it to buildings statewide, nationally. So you can see if your pool or your highway garage is, say, disproportionately using energy. I mean, it takes a while, honestly, to familiarize yourself to that depth of, with that depth of analysis, but even just to initially do that inputting of the data is really, really beneficial. So.
Well, I'm really sorry my comptroller's not here tonight because it sounds like something he would really like.
Yeah.
I'm sure TC would love that.
Yeah.
And that's something I've worked with communities that they may start with just doing the benchmarking and then we can work on the resolution later. You know what I mean? Like to me, the important part is actually doing the benchmarking.
Sure.
It's just nicer to count as an action. They want you to pass the resolution.
Sure.
But I can help you with either,
Great.
Yeah. And we have a template resolution, of course. So.
Okay, great.
And then the next one, I'll be really brief about this, clean energy upgrades. Basically, if you have done, say, LED lighting retrofits, added municipal solar, a solar system at your town hall, a lot of communities are doing those two specifically, but it could be even a more energy efficient boiler, any sort of clean energy or energy efficiency upgrades. If you've done any of those since 2014, we can use your benchmarking reports to analyze if you've reduced your greenhouse gas emissions from all of those energy efficiency upgrades by 10% or more. So to count as a high impact action, you want to demonstrate 10% reduction across the buildings portfolio. It's really neat for the village of Wappingers Falls. In my lengthy email, I'll share this with you. The village demonstrated this. We worked with them to create a report that we pulled from that portfolio manager tool, and they did LED lighting retrofits in I think 7 of their 9 municipal buildings, and they got a significant solar system at their water treatment plant. And between those two things, I mean, significant energy reductions. But it was really nice to quantify it in this report.
Sure.
Like I said, I'll share that with you. They're very proud of it, so they love when we share it.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and then again, if moving forward, if you decide to pursue any of the actions based on your benchmarking, we can do that later on as well. So the next one, LED streetlights, you may have already had presentations on that, separate, specific to LED streetlight conversion. There's a lot of interest and momentum locally. A lot of it started down in Westchester County, but it's moving north. And right now there's another NYSERDA funded program, the Mid-Hudson Streetlights Consortium. And they're basically working on aggregating a lot of communities locally to issue an RFP. So for communities that are interested in LED conversion, they can sign on to this RFP, basically no obligation, just see what proposals come in. They've extended the deadline to November 15th, but then any, town of Red Hook, again, you'll hear their name a lot tonight, they're gonna be the lead applicant or the lead, community for the RFP. So basically, any communities that want to sign on later have a year to do so.
We were just talking about it. I don't think we don't own streetlights, right? Ours are through Central Hudson, and so what did you say, Dave? Didn't we?
I thought they replaced them with LED.
Or
They had the old sodium vapor.
I think they're
Some
going
of
to
them,
as
as they
Yeah.
expire, they're replacing them with LED. But this is a different program where you would actually buy the poles, the lights, and I explored it a little bit with the consortium, and it's quite a responsibility, and it's actually going the opposite way that we have been going in terms of, it's really an investment that the town will own into the future, and have to maintain and replace and that type of thing. So, kudos to Red Hook that they're doing that, but
Yeah, it's not for
it's
everyone.
not really for everyone. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but like I said, it's a lot of responsibility for the maintenance of it.
Yeah, definitely. And,
Mhm.
in the future, if you start to hear about the benefits of communities that are happy with it, there's other options as well, like NIPA, which does a turnkey, because I totally understand what you're saying. The community managed approach is a significant amount of work. And then they're issuing a separate RFP for long-term O&M.
Yes.
Because, of course, a lot of smaller communities, especially, are happy to have the utility, of course, continue to maintain them rather than going into contract with an electrical contractor, basically. So, yeah, it's just something to be aware of.
Yeah,
that's, going
I'll
on.
be curious to hear how Red Hook does with it, and it does seem that it provides more options for the type of lighting fixtures that you could use, and I think that's one of the attractions. I know Dave had a resident who was distressed by the brightness of the LED bulbs, and so that was my understanding that they have, if you go through the consortium, a lot of different options.
The option, I think is that you're taking it into your own hands, so you have the option to, say, purchase, which the lighting design phase is a very important one. So instead of them just kind of getting replaced piecemeal as needed, which of course it's great that everyone is starting to slowly convert, but you don't want to convert one for one. I mean, I live in the city of Poughkeepsie, and when they first converted to LEDs too, it was, until I understood the energy efficiency and benefits, it's a big change, and the technology is always improving. And so, yeah, you basically don't want to switch out 1,400 HPS light for the same wattage of LED.
Right.
I mean, it's like significantly less, something like 70% less in some cases you'll want to use. So,
Sure.
yeah, but it sounds like you're well versed in that already. So.
Yeah.
And so the next one, as we mentioned earlier, is the SUPERVISOR. There's a complimentary program going on right now, or it's been kind of rolling through the region, and I understand that you had a successful campaign with your Conservation Advisory Council last year, right? Which is great, yeah, and we had that in Poughkeepsie as well. Unfortunately for the NYSERDA requirements, you'll need a list of 10 residential customers, and I went and looked, and unfortunately there's not 10 within the town. There's dozens and dozens, but it has to be attributed to each municipality. So I'll look over those lists again, but just so you know that we are available to assist in a future campaign, just in case you ever hear residents express interest in another round. Basically, we're available for the next 2 years for that as well.
Okay.
So yeah, the Unified Solar Permit. That's it's basically a streamlined permit that some communities find beneficial to adopt, because it basically streamlines, standardizes small solar installations, so under 25 kilowatts. Basically, any of those systems that people got under the SOLARIZE campaign, as they're coming in for your building inspector, your code enforcement officer, you just have a standardized price and parameters. So if that's something the town was interested in, we have template permits and resolutions. So.
Well, we did pass a solar law last year. But
Oh, did you?
do we,
Oh, okay.
But do we have the, like a streamlined?
We have it in our solar law.
The streamlined?
Yeah, we have it,
Okay.
we're not using the unified solar permit, but
specific.
that's now as part of our
And this is,
expedited process under our solar law.
it's great actually, because that you've done that, because we've actually worked with quite a few communities that have already been so proactive that are one step ahead. And I think NYSERDA's intention is to kind of just standardize it across the state.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
But, yeah, exactly. But and so they actually had a $2,500 grant that unfortunately just closed to help incentivize communities to adopt the permit. I guess I shouldn't tell you about the grants that aren't available.
Thank you.
But anyway, yeah, so that's great that you've done that. I hadn't seen that, so
Yeah.
great. The energy code enforcement training, just so you know, it's available. It's a NYSERDA-funded training. Basically, it's your code enforcement officer and 2 other municipal representatives. It could be CAC members. At least one can be a volunteer, municipal staff. And basically, they go through a collaborative training process focusing on the energy code. So they do site review, the plans review, and then actual site visits for 2 ongoing, basically, construction projects. And some communities, actually, it was really neat. The town and village of New Paltz in Marbletown teamed up. So they actually got, I think it was 9 or 10 of them all together, and they went through the training process together. So it's not something you would get done quickly if you choose to pursue it, because there's so much interest, because it's a free training, that there's a bit of a backlog, but just so you know, it's available if and when you'd like it.
Okay.
We're getting through the high impact actions here. Yeah, so let's see, clean fleets, that's the one I think I'm really here to focus on tonight. In the packet I gave you, you'll see that on the second page it should be is this BEC, Clean Vehicles and Infrastructure funding opportunity. So basically, the high impact action is either municipal deployment of an alternative fuel vehicle, which basically means an EV in today's market, you know, in your municipal fleet, or an EV charging station. And so this grant is one that dozens and dozens of municipalities locally have pursued, or are currently pursuing, including the town and village of Rhinebeck are currently very interested in this grant for 1 to 2 charging stations in Rhinebeck. So that's good news. And a lot of other communities, Beacon, Wappingers Falls, already received the grant, so they're working on purchasing the stations right now, so we'll start to see those go in the next couple of months. Red Hooks just went in. They got actually 4 charging stations at their town hall that went in. I think they came online only 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I called Supervisor McKeon to thank him personally for that. And it's just a really good opportunity, because this grant basically pays for 80% of the cost, up to $16,000. And then your 20% local match, your local cost share, can be 100% in-kind contribution. So you can use your current staff, materials to do the installation, you know, electrician, you know, what have you. Most communities don't end up spending much, if anything, out of pocket to get a publicly accessible EV charging station. And again, I have multiple applications from all the communities I've worked with, so I think for smaller communities, so many of these grants are so complicated to write, you know, especially the budget, and that's something I can provide significant assistance for. I heard an estimate from one of the communities I'm working with. The trustee said it would be something like 40 hours. He estimated it would take him to write the grant. So again, that's hopefully a barrier I'm removing by being available.
So I have to apologize because I'm not familiar with this. So if somebody comes into one of these charging stations, like when I pull into a gas station, I pay per gallon. Mm-hmm. Is there a fee to this when somebody plugs in to charge? And how does that all work?
So that's a great question. As an EV driver, I think I'm particularly suited to answer it as well. So basically this grant, first of all, will pay, if you write it into the grant, it'll pay for the first 2 years of charging. For communities some communities opt to pay for the charging. For Ulster County, for example, they have 9 county charging stations. The report from last year, when they pulled the reports, the one that had the most electricity usage, I don't remember how many kilowatt hours, but it was $275 for this one station. They've opted to pay.
For the whole year?
Yeah, they've chosen to. Other communities like Rosendale, I believe, they got the grant, and their Chamber of Commerce agreed to take on that fee. So it's just you can be creative about it, basically. Honestly, as an EV driver, I would much rather, I don't mind paying for the charge, and it's pocket change, you know.
Gotcha.
So honestly, it's only a couple of dollars. I mean, these aren't fast chargers. This is generally a level 2 charger, which again, like this gentleman here was saying, it takes 3 or 4 hours to fully charge your car. So also for local tourism and things like that, it's actually most communities opt for a level 2, because that's where people will park. They'll take a walk. They'll get lunch. They'll, you know, see the sights, rather than the Thruway has the level 3, which takes a half an hour to charge, and those cost something like over $40,000 per pedestal, where these cost significantly less. And then if the town was interested in pursuing this, I have a price list from NYPA, the New York State Power Authority. They basically did an aggregated purchase, so you wouldn't have to do an RFP to purchase the equipment. They basically have them in warehouses around the state ready to go.
And as an EV driver, how do you get informed on where the stations are?
So I have 4 apps, but basically all you need is one, the
Okay.
PlugShare app, and that just shows where the charging stations. So for me, in my line of work, it's been particularly exciting to start to see them coming online. Like one day I looked at the app and I saw Red Hooks, and another day I looked at the app and I saw the one in Orange County. You know, so it's kind of
Okay.
neat to start to see more and more dots appear on those apps.
Gotcha.
And how do you know how many you should have? Is it like by population or?
You know, that's really an interesting question because I don't. That answer doesn't exist yet, except to say that, you know, GM, I just posted it on our organization's Facebook page today that, you know, GM is pledging to go all electric by 2030. So when you start to think that basically we're kind of attacking it from one direction, right? The infrastructure doesn't exist at all. So we're kind of, it's coming together piecemeal. But communities like Hyde Park, like the Rhinebecks, like the ones with central business districts are the logical choice as we develop this infrastructure, and they're really the ones that are being proactive. I mean, you know, I think Ulster County is unique. If you look on that PlugShare app, I mean, they have them all over, every courthouse, and they're probably honestly not used very much right now, but in 5 or 10 years, as there's more EVs on the road, you know, we'll probably all look to them and wish we did that. So,
For the grant, does it have to be on a municipal property or can it be a private property?
that's a
or?
great question. It does not have to be on municipal property, but if it's not, you do need to include a climate change mitigation easement. Basically, we've created a template easement. Some communities have elected to go that route because, say, you have the perfect location or a business or someone that's willing to, because some communities have limited parking. So I think it depends on your parking situation, depends on your locations, the siting of the station. But we have that template easement. You can have the attorney review it. Basically, it's 10 years right of way for the municipality to come in and you know, maintain the equipment and make sure it's working and do the reporting.
Great.
Is that enough on the charging station?
Well, just one other question. Do you have to be a clean energy community before you can apply for the grant, or that it goes the other way around?
Yeah, you do not have to be.
Okay,
Actually, to
great.
be a clean energy community, I mean, there is no obligation at any point. Basically, you know, if you complete 4 actions, you'll get designated. We're hoping that NYSERDA will have another round of grants. You may have heard that some other communities in our region have gotten grants through this program, direct clean energy community grants. There were 18 grants basically when the program launched a year ago, and the first 18 communities that completed 4 actions and were designated those grants are earmarked for them. So basically, I see it, you know, we're starting to see it as a benefit in a different way because now we can really spend the time with communities like you that want to, you know, really dive in deep on each of the actions and find those associated grants, like the charging station grant. Yeah, so.
I noticed going south, there seem to be a lot of the charging stations. You know, if they're ahead, like Florida has a lot of them. They're in shopping centers and people plug in.
Well, it's interesting because also Tesla, you know, is giving out the stations for free. Unfortunately, most of the other stations, if you have a Tesla, you can plug it in, you get an adapter and can plug it in other places, but anybody else, if you don't have a Tesla, you can't use those stations, which is unfortunate. So sometimes, you know, I know in Massachusetts, I've seen those at the Big
Yeah,
Y, so you'll see a whole, you know,
Yeah.
10, 12
Right.
Tesla spots,
In
which
Newburgh,
is
at
great.
Cosmos, in the parking lot, there's like
Yeah.
a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's still great they're there, and in the long run, I think they'll be, you know, it's all going to standardize more. We're still in that sort of fiercely competitive
Sure.
stage of the market right now.
Kind of like plugging your cell phone right now.
Right.
Exactly.
Here has a Samsung Galaxy, and I'm sure there's 3 people up here with an iPhone.
It's
That
true.
person with the Samsung Galaxy can't use that other one, and it's kind of like, just so you guys understand, if you don't own something like that, it's kind of like topping off. You know, most people aren't going to stay, and they're going to start from scratch. Like I personally have used the Red Hook station quite a few times. I walk over to Dunkin' Donuts. I come from Ruby's in Rhinebeck. I go over there. I walk across the street to Dunkin' Donuts. I get a nice. You know, I used to be very fit. You know, I do a little bit of exercise walking across the street because it's not directly across the street. I walk over. I'm usually plugged in for 15 minutes. It probably cost them 30 cents. However, their buildings cover also with solar panels, so I don't know if it costs back.
Yeah.
But you're still stopping and patronizing local
Yep.
business, and yeah,
Right.
I mean, I think,
We went and my daughter and I went last week, and we went to the movie theater. I live on Route 9G. We drove. I could have went to the Roosevelt. They opened the license plate down there. We parked at Red Hook. It was a beautiful day a week ago. Sunday we went there. We walked all the way down to
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did business, I'm like Mr. Hyde Burke.
Yeah.
And you can ask anybody, I always talk of our town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
And I love our town. And how can we make it better? You guys are here for that. I appreciate that. And this is one of the things that we could do to drive tourism and make this town the next step, next level.
There is
Great.
EV
That's great.
specific tourism.
Yeah.
These people come and they stay.
Yes.
They have to.
Cool.
That works.
Traveling.
She knows. She's got
They're
you know,
captured.
the notorious leaf, which you cannot leave.
It's the first range, the first, mass-produced EV, basically, that was in 2011, 2012, and I have a 2012. So technology has improved significantly
Yeah.
since then.
Sure.
But I guess I'm in the right field.
You are.
And again, that's something that we can, I'll send you detailed follow-up information, but basically, at any point, we can work on that grant application if you're
Gotcha.
so interested. And I can
Excellent.
send you that climate change mitigation easement so you can review that.
Okay. Is there any maximum in terms of the number you can apply for?
Most communities have been getting 1 or 2, but you can actually apply for, I can't remember, but quite a few. I mean, I think it's something like a $2 million limit per facility, so you would not nearly approach that, even if you say applied for 4 charging stations or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And then the last, we'll just kind of really breeze through these last 3 high-impact actions. Climate Smart Community Certification. That's actually a DEC program.
We did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the town of Hyde Park, I don't know what year it was, but you must have taken the pledge, basically,
Right,
to be a
right.
Climate Smart Community. So you passed that resolution. You appear on the DEC's list of registered Climate Smart Communities. And it's kind of funny because the Climate Smart Communities is one on this list of 10 here. So it looks like it's just this little thing in our program, but it's actually a much broader program. It just provides a broad framework for climate action planning for communities. And so there's only, just to give you an example of how broad of a program it is, it's 120 points to reach the next level, which is basically Climate Smart Community Certification. Then you can get to the bronze level, and there's various levels. But since 2014, when the certification part of the program rolled out, they have 14 certified Climate Smart communities in the state. And our program, which is only a year old, the Clean Energy Communities, we have 100. We just announced our 100 in 14 months. So just to demonstrate, to achieve that level of certification, we do have some communities locally that are kind of slowly gathering, a volunteer base. Your CAC, your Environmental Conservation Committee, is usually a significant partner if you do choose to pursue that certification. But another grant opportunity I included on your 3rd page, it should be, is the Climate Smart Communities grants. Now, what I included here is basically the 2017 grants. So they're not going to reopen. That closed as a consolidated funding application opportunity, right? So it closed in July, but then next May, hopefully a similar grants will reopen, and those are require 50% local cost share. So if the community, if you review these and you think, oh, there's some flooding mitigation or some kind of climate adaptation programs you want to pursue anyway, it might be worthwhile to think over the winter about which ones, and then when those grants are reissued in May, you know who to call, and I can work with you to go for those grants. We're starting to see some communities, the town and village of New Paltz actually received the Climate Smart grants for certification last year, and the town of Dover actually was the other one locally. So they're kind of, they got grants, I think somewhere around $50,000 to $100,000 to work on their certification. So they're getting started on that as well.
So what are the benefits of the certification?
Aside from of course grants here and there,
Yeah.
Basically the benefits are from the actions, whatever actions it is you choose to pursue. So basically it's sort of communities looking forward, planning for the future. Basically part of it is climate action planning, greenhouse gas emissions inventories for your local, your government operations as well as your community. Once you've done those, greenhouse gas emissions inventories, you can create that climate action plan and sort of figure out how you want to move forward. Are you starting to have flooding issues from inundation or sea level rise, because you're a river town as well. So, it's very specific for each community. But yeah, so those benefits as well as, of course, grant funding.
Of course, grant benefits.
Yes. And then the next 2 high-impact actions, I mean, honestly, they're not available to the town. Well, community choice aggregation you may have heard of. Basically, that's that's more of a long-term a program that's ongoing regionally, actually. Basically, it's a municipal energy procurement model where a community passes a local law and they hire an administrator to basically purchase their energy for them on behalf of the residents. It's just an interesting program. We don't have any examples statewide yet, except for Westchester Power. But I will just say that, just so you know what your neighbors are doing, that Beacon, Phillipstown, and I think the Fishkills, both Fishkills, actually passed the local law, and they're working with a nonprofit called Renewable Highlands. And so basically, they're working on, aggregating their electricity supply, and then I think the ultimate goal for them is to purchase 100% green electricity. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that's more long term, but it's a movement that's slowly gathering. And then it's also, there's Citizens for Local Power that's working on that in Ulster County. So in case you hear about either of those programs, it's something that's ongoing. And then the last one, Energize New York Finance. Like we said earlier, I know that the town is one of the 3 pilot communities doing the residential PACE financing. And then, of course, Dutchess County is already a member of the Energy Improvement Corporation. So it sounds like everybody's well versed on that. Some communities, I make sure to remind them to, advertise that the availability of PACE financing for, commercial and nonprofit property owners for clean energy upgrades. But I think awareness is high here.
Yeah. Do you know where we are on the letter that we're intending to send out?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Because we did kind of discuss with the CAC that we would inform the residents who receive the STAR exemption, but through a direct mailing to let them know that this program is available.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because you would think that it would have the most impact on those people. So
Yeah, the enhanced STAR they determined was very similar income level to the whatever the subsidized energy efficiency upgrade level is. So we were going to do a special mailing.
Yeah. Essentially, if maybe you would like to just review how that would work for certain residents if they applied.
I honestly, because for the high impact action, it's only Energize New York commercial. So actually, I'm learning about the residential end as well.
Okay.
So I would actually want to attend your next event. I remember you had the 3 communities had the launch events last year, and I was able to go to Beacon.
Okay.
So I learned a lot, and it's the same Energize New York. My colleagues there are basically the same folks that are working on the commercial end as well.
Okay.
But, so I probably know as much about you as you do about the residential end.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact details, but there's definitely a subsidy for the actual installation of these improvements that are recommended from the energy audit. Is my understanding. Is that right, Emily?
Yeah.
I think
Well, only for residents that meet a certain income
income,
criteria.
and that's why we were going to send it to the
Right. Well,
enhanced.
but almost all residents can get the energy audit for free.
Right.
But it's the subsidy for the upgrades is only available at certain income levels. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But you're right. I mean, the other thing that's in, I'm still trying to learn the acronyms, but there is for multifamily apartments, there's a separate program within the program too, I think, right? It's not just for single family homes. There's also the
multifamily option.
And then in some cases, it can be included under the commercial as well if it's, I think, over 4 units. So, yeah.
Is there a deadline on the grant applications for the clean vehicle for the chargers?
Right now, let's see, does it say here? Because what happened was it closed March 31st, and we had a lot of communities that hadn't gotten it in, and then it reopened just last month.
Okay.
So we just have so much interest. I don't think it does have a deadline here.
Okay.
I think it said quarterly when I looked on the website, didn't it? Or maybe not.
Yeah, it doesn't have a hard deadline, I don't think, but basically, I think my understanding was that sometime in the middle of next year. So basically you have time. It's not a rush, but on the other hand, of course, it's not competitive. So as long as you submit your application and you meet the selection criteria, you would be awarded the funding.
And then what's the timeline from award to is it basically a reimbursement program?
I've seen it take about, I don't actually know how that works, because once they go into contract, I've seen communities, once they're notified that they, their application was accepted, they have a charging station as little as 6 months.
Okay.
I mean, Red Hook, I worked with, the supervisor last fall. No, actually, early spring.
Oh.
And yeah, they got it in before the March 31st deadline, and now they have charging stations. And if you choose to purchase from the NIPA, I think that makes it a lot
makes it,
simpler for communities because, again, you don't have to do the RFP, and you just have your price list right there that you just write into the grant application. So.
Good.
Now, are these all, have to be hooked up to like a backup generator or something? So if the town is out of power with a major storm?
That's my greatest fear as an EV driver.
Right, I'm just trying to think, if you're in an area where there's a lot of outages, are municipalities hooking this up to their backup generators, or is there just no power to them?
I'm not aware of any municipality that has done that. I mean, I think in the long run, microgrids, we'll be seeing more microgrids and things like that anyway with built-in power generation and backup power.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea. I think about that at home as well because, I just have standard electricity from the grid. And if you have a power outage and you don't have a full charge,
Right.
But I mean, I think that's a systemic infrastructure issue that we'll probably be addressing as more EVs get on the road in the next, decade or two.
Yeah,
Is there any type of special quality to the power source that you need? Like, does it have to be 220 or?
So it's basically the electric service has to be, for one level 2 charger in someone's home, it's like 30 to 40 amp service. For me, I had 30 amp, maybe 40 amp in my garage already, and I had a 240 plug, and I was able to just buy a station, mount it on the wall, and plug it into that. But you have to make sure. And so for municipalities, yeah, it just depends on your electric service. So some choose to site the stations. Like the Village of Rhinebeck may be good for you to confer with, because I think they partially, a community will choose to site a station where it'll cost less to run the conduit and, do a lot of trenching, basically, rather, if you go, I mean, highway departments aren't usually the best location, but somewhere that already has the electric service.
Great. Okay. Anyone have any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Europa.
Great. And I will follow up with an extensive email, lots of documents for you, and then I hope to work with you moving forward.
Thank you very much. We'd like to do this.
Thanks for coming.
Very
I
interesting.
appreciate it. Thank
Good.
you.
All right. Thanks, Europa.
Thanks, Sean.
It's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Something
Thank you.
new. Yes. Thanks, Sean, for coming in too. Yeah. Okay.
We didn't accept the minutes.
Oh, good. Thanks for pointing that out. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of October 2nd?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thanks. Okay, so just moving on, we have the did everyone bring their 2018 budget with them?
I have to go back home.
Emily. So we have, take care, Sean.
Bye, Sean.
Yeah, my hand left it before the door.
Well, essentially, you guys all got this on October 2nd when I was away with my daughter. So there's a lot of information in here that I'm hoping that everyone carefully looks at, but especially spends time focusing on the areas that you're liaison to. And there are a couple things that I would like to point out to you. Starting from the big picture, moving to the smaller picture, that, right now, this is about a zero increase. It's really about a wash. But in talking with TC today, there are some expenses that we have not really accounted for in the budget that we'd like to see or to discuss the possibility of funding for next year. One is the website. If people recall that I had an RFP that went out back a couple months ago now, and we did get 5 responses, and I've asked for assistance from a very qualified resident who kind of went through them with me, and we've kind of identified probably the best one, and I'll ask everyone to take a look. I think I did recommend everyone take a look at the 5 options. So, that's one of the expenses that I'm hoping to add to to 2018's budget. The other thing is that the police overtime continues to be an issue. We have a number of, or one police officer that's out right now on 207C. We've had a couple that have been out over the last year, and that really drives the police overtime costs. So that's one of the items in the budget that's, we may want to put in additional funds to be able to cover that. And the other, another one is a health insurance cushion, that we don't have the final costs on health insurance yet for 2018. There's some predictions of, between 15 and 20% increase in health insurance costs. And additionally, we talked about being able to put some additional monies into paving next year, something that we would love to be able to do. So there's a number of items that we would, I would think would possibly make sense to, instead of having 0, go to 1%. So I think that's something to think about.
1.86%?
Yeah,
is the
that's what
tax cap?
TC said. It's 1.86 this year.
So we're going to be well under that in any case.
In any
That's
case,
great.
yeah. But there's, as I said, there's some things that we'd like to definitely have funding for, and if you explore the first part of your budget, the revenue, there's always requests for things that people want, and our job is to pare those down to things people need, and that's really what we've been trying to focus on. So there's some other additional items that I'd like everybody to take a look at. And we can really kind of, after you've explored it carefully this week, hone in on them at our next budget meeting. And for the elected officials' salaries, that's one thing that I'm recommending that there aren't any increases, but I want to have you guys all look at that. The Justice Court has asked for increase in their conferences and also for health insurance. So that's something that I think we should talk about next week, and that you guys all take a look at. Then there's additional, as I said, for the assessor, there's some requests for additional part-time staff. And for Parks and Recreation, there are a number of requests for capital purchases that would be funded through our rec trust. So I think that's something that everybody, if they take time and really hone in on that, that would be my recommendations. Also, we have on our schedule to adopt the budget on November 13th. But when I was talking with TC today, he said that the law this year is that it be adopted by November 20th, which does happen to be a Monday. So I'm going to recommend that we cancel that November 13th meeting and instead have one on November 20th. So we don't need to do that tonight. We can do that next week, but I just wanted to highlight that. Okay.
We're meeting next Monday, right?
Monday we have a meeting, and then I believe November 4th. Does that sound right? 6th, November 6th. And then we had one scheduled for the 13th, but as I said, TC said recommended the 20th because that'll give us a little bit more time to revise the preliminary budget before we adopt the final budget. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
Yes, it does.
Anybody have any additional input on that? No?
Not right now.
Okay, yeah, next Monday you will, I'm sure.
But yeah, I'll certainly reach out to Walt, and if everyone, reaches out to their different department heads, we'll be able to.
I think that's
Yeah.
the way to go. And,
Yeah.
First take a careful look at the requests, and then go ahead and talk to them. Okay, so doesn't look like we have anyone here from the public. So we'll be skipping that item on the agenda, and we'll just move towards the resolutions when everyone is ready.
Resolution 1016-1 of 2017, resolution approving selection of professional firm to perform the 2017 audit for the town of Hyde Park.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 1016-2 of 2017, resolution authorizing the submission of the fiscal year 2018 Dutchess County Community Development Block Grant Program application.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's for the conversion of the former Roosevelt Firehouse to a town park.
That'd be nice.
And Pete is, I don't, did he actually, do we have the final application? Did he send that over today? I'm not sure.
No.
No.
Pete?
Pete,
No,
not yet.
I have
Okay.
not seen it yet.
When is the public hearing? Do we have that?
We did that already.
Wait, oh, that
We
was
did
when
that
I
while you
wasn't
were
here.
away.
Wait,
Yeah,
I was-
yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And
I think he said by Tuesday,
by Tuesday?
tomorrow.
Okay.
he was gonna get that.
Very
Yeah,
good.
probably the resolution's one of the last things.
Yeah.
That needs to go into the application.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, Resolution 1016-3 of 2017, resolution authorizing supervisor to sign the Community Development Block Grant Agreement for 2017 for the Pinewoods Road Pedestrian Improvement Project.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye. Resolution 1016-4 of 2017, resolution authorizing supervisor to prepare and solicit requests for proposals for an engineer for the CDBG Pinewood Road Sidewalk Project.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1016-5 of 2017, resolution authorizing the purchase of an additional plaque to be located at the Town of Hyde Park Veterans Memorial.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
And just the purpose of this is that we found over time that a number of residents that had participated in various wars, their names were left off, and David has been doing a fabulous job in terms of trying to
Barbara.
collect along with our town historian, Barbara.
Yeah.
Um,
And your encouragement.
And yes, it's been a lot of tracking, I know.
Yes.
And so we did not have any monies in the budget budgeted for this,
Right.
and so this is the purpose of this resolution. And Caroline was able to get a second
good.
proposal today,
Right.
and it was more than the first one.
Okay.
So that's a good thing, I
Yeah.
guess. So we can work on going forward with that.
And we're, okay.
And
I got another one today, which I gave to Caroline. So.
yeah, okay, so it's
40.
good that we didn't do it then.
Yeah, 44 names in it.
Yeah, so, well, thank you, Dave,
No,
and thank you
thank
to
you
Barbara
for,
for all that
Putting
work.
us on that. I mean, it's
But,
something that people
you know,
have been
I
asking
mean,
for.
ideally, we would have a separate memorial, a separate stone, but we really didn't have the funds for that at the
Right.
time, so that's why we're putting it on a plaque and then adding it to an existing stone.
Or
Nice.
talking to somebody who might.
Yeah, we might have
have
some
a-
other options.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thanks so much for working on that, guys. And I know I talked to Mike Athanas, and he was really grateful.
Yes,
and-
Mike helped us
Yeah.
in that. With the
Sure.
American Legion, that was great.
Did
Labor
we
of love. I
vote
mean, they're
or-
all Hyde Parkers, and I knew. I mean,
Great.
Okay.
Okay, we're halfway through six.
it was my turn.
Where are we up to? I think it's you.
We need a
Yeah, you
second.
just read
Number
it.
6?
7?
No, I don't think we did
Ooh,
6
oh.
yet, did we?
No, we did not.
We
Didn't
didn't
finish
read
six.
this yet, did we?
We did not finish 6.
Transfer of escrow. Okay, resolution 1016-6 of 2017, resolution authorizing the release of the balance of escrow from the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board according to resolution number 17I.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Hold on a second, guys. I have the budget summary that I was supposed to hand out to you, so I'm going to just do that right now.
Oh,
Thanks.
Yeah. That'll be helpful in your review.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We voted on that.
number 7.
We're finished with that last one? Okay. Resolution 1016-7 of 2017, resolution accepting Supervisor Aileen Rohr's donation to the Town of Hyde Park for the mural print done by artist Frank Palea.
I'll second that.
And all in favor?
Aye.
And there it
you.
Thank you,
is.
Supervisor.
Thanks, Aileen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's nice.
Beautiful.
Got it mounted.
Resolution 1016-8 of 2017, resolution authorizing 2017-2018 grant application to the Justice Court Assistance Program, the JCAP.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1016-9 of 2017, resolution amending the appointment date of full-time police officer Christopher Miller to the Hyde Park Police Department.
And second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, does anyone have any other items that they would like to announce?
Yeah.
I know Emily does.
I just wanted to announce the open house that's coming up this Thursday right here at Town Hall. It's going to be starting at 6:30, and we're going to have, back in June, we had an open house and got people's input on their ideas for what they'd like to see in the center of town along Route 9. And now the planners are coming back with some proposed concepts for what could be built there, what sort of streetscape and sewer infrastructure we need. And so we're hoping people can come back and take a look and let us know if we're on the right track. And then the plans will be finalized in the next few months. So that's this Thursday at Town Hall at 6:30. 7 o'clock, we'll have a short presentation that I think will be televised. And then some time after that for questions and answers.
I'm not sure who the idea was to, it was in the St. Peter's Bulletin on Sunday, Saturday and Sunday.
Caroline.
and-
That was
worked
Caroline.
hard
Which was
to put it out
fantastic, because I had a couple
there.
residents say, hey, I got that in the church bulletin, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was a great idea.
And the
Carol.
posters are all over town, too. I've
Yeah.
seen them.
She's
Yeah,
very
great idea.
dedicated.
Yeah, very, very
Yeah,
nice
she-
She got
idea.
it went home in all the elementary
Yeah.
school.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, well, you get a different group of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Good to have young
Yeah.
families come in and talk about the things that matter to them,
Yeah.
because they're the future, so, yeah.
And then we had the ribbon cutting on
Ribbon
Friday
cutting on
Friday
Friday
at
for the
5
new
o'clock.
pedestrian
for
improvements.
the downtown initiative.
From the Antique Center?
Yeah, and that'll be at the Antique Center at 5 p.m., so people
The
are.
bridge is beautiful.
Isn't
Nice
it
job.
pretty?
Amy.
It looks
Beautiful.
lovely, and
Yeah.
we solved the tree issue that we had a little, hiccup on, that there were some trees that were
Oh,
the
the
wrong
bushy tree.
specimen,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they were replaced this past week. And
Right.
so
Yeah,
the
beautiful.
last thing to do is the pedestrian beacon. That's like a flashing beacon at the crosswalk. It was required by DOT to have one that kind of flashes. It's by only when the button's pressed. So that's the last item to go in. And
That's a Calmer.
Pardon?
Calmer, right?
At Calmer, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They really fixed that
Yeah, there was a pretty big dip.
big dip.
Yeah,
It's beautiful now. I go in
Yeah.
Calmer all the time.
yeah.
On Saturday, I was at the Ever-Ready in the morning for breakfast, and there was about 14 people that came from the Quality Inn that stayed for the weekend.
Oh, cool.
And they were walking down the sidewalk, and it was just nice seeing
Yeah.
that there was that, safe connection to the local businesses, and
Yeah.
I just had a smile on my face.
Yeah,
So,
that's
nice
great.
job.
Good.
Hyde Park is ahead of the time with the sidewalks. All the towns are doing that now and talking about it. We
Yeah.
were ahead of it.
Yep, ahead of the curve. So, just on a final thing, that Donna let me know that a former town clerk, Florence Hyde, is celebrating her 100th birthday.
Wow.
So we want to wish Florence a very, very happy birthday.
Wow, happy birthday.
Also
Does
wanna-
she still live in the area?
She does.
Oh, nice.
She does, yes.
That's
She's lived here
amazing.
most of her life. Yeah.
100, huh?
She's a former town clerk who just turned 100, Florence Hyde.
I remember that name.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's also going to be Donna's birthday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Donna.
I'm not 100.
I won't be 100 this year.
You got another half a century to go, but
A little less.
And Aileen, just so you know that last week, that light on Wright Avenue was installed.
oh,
And the
wonderful.
residents there are very happy at that end of the street because it was extremely dark, so,
Oh, I'm so glad.
yeah, so that
Good.
was finished.
Yeah, these little things take a very, very long time. And, we're still working on the West Dorsey issues, and Warren's actually reviewing some information because we did get the information from Walt that the no trucks over a certain tonnage was passed by local law, and I didn't realize that. So there were some parameters that are part of that local law that Warren's taking a look at for tomorrow. And then, we did have the issue with the teen center that I'm sure everyone was aware of, and it was a situation where there used to apparently be about 40 volunteer parents who would supervise the teen center events, and that has really dwindled significantly. And we had a situation where there really was not enough supervision, and that's just not really safe for anyone, for the students or the staff. And so I have reached out to Eric Shaw, and he's the principal at Haviland, and look forward to meeting with him and a couple of the rec commissioners. Steve Woodcock has been very helpful with that. He'd like to be part of it. And just seeing, what kind of plan we can come up with for a safe, fun program for teens. So that's on the agenda.
Is that just a town event, or is that a town/school?
No, it's a town.
It's a
town. And, it's funny because one would think because it's in the schools
Right.
that there would be school support. So I'm hoping that we can come up
With Greer,
with
get some support?
some sort of plan, because it is in the school, that there would be, some collaboration.
Right.
And I asked, Kathleen how long the program had been in use, and she said about 20 years.
Wow.
So, so quite some time, and we look forward to replacing it or tweaking or doing some other new programming to make it work.
It's hard getting volunteers. I mean, as you know, the
Yeah.
fire department struggle.
Exactly.
I mean, you think of all the committees that we try to get. So, we need to have a better solution, because you can't have a program that's not safe for the children or the supervision that's already in place.
Yeah.
Because I know there was a little bit of an issue there as well.
Yeah,
So,
there was. So that's why the town had to be the adult. We have to be the adults in the room and make sure that we have the right things.
Well, I'm glad that we're working on it.
Yeah, we'll be working on it, and I know there's a lot of good parents out there. And the thing is that it was let kind of open-ended in terms of commitments, and
Yes.
was not completely firm commitment, and that's just, you can't run a program that
And you don't know
way.
if you're going to have 50 or 250.
Well,
Well, they
did-
do know, because
yeah.
the kids have to get a ticket in advance, so they know how many tickets.
So they can't do it that evening? They can't show up that
They
evening?
cannot.
No,
They have
they
to
have to
register
do
the
it.
Wednesday before
They
at
do.
lunchtime and
Okay.
get a ticket, yeah.
But everyone who does register is allowed to go, and so, there's a bit of a disconnect unless you have a very firm plan in place with the
Right.
volunteers.
Yes,
That
right.
that the volunteers
Gonna be there.
take that commitment seriously.
Sure,
So,
sure.
So,
Well, good. I'm glad that you're on that.
yeah, we're on it. Okay, so may I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
And a
Second.
second? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.